am reading this statement on behalf of the Leader of the Majority, and allow me, Mr. Speaker, to add on this particular point for the benefit of the Committee of Finance and especially for the ears of Senator Dulo, that there is no discrimination when we are handling statements. The reasons why her statements are taken long to come is because we handle statements first come, first served. She should be patient, and if she has got any doubts, she's free to write to us. We shall answer her in writing. Honorable Senators, it is noteworthy that the Part 2 of the 4th session, the Senate passed 6 bills and referred them to the National Assembly for consideration, as well as 11 motions on various matters whose resolutions have been referred to the concerned implementing agencies. In addition, Mr. Speaker, you may recall that the Senate agreed to the National Assembly amendments to the Persons with Disabilities Bill, Senate Bills number 7 of 2023. This bill has since been transmitted to His Excellency, the President of the Republic of Kenya, for assent. I take this opportunity to thank honorable senators for availing themselves to dispense with business as highlighted. However, from the foregoing, it is evident that the business before the Senate is a lot. It is my wish and that of the Senate leadership that as we proceed for the recess at the rise of the Senate today, we shall redouble our efforts to ensure that significant progress is made on the business upon resumption from regular sittings. And I hasten to add on my behalf and on behalf of the Lion of Narok, which has been meandering into Kajiado without permission. Senator, we are very grateful, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Boni, just take your seat first. Order, honorable senators. Senator Boni, compose yourself, because I've given you some latitude. First, how you are addressing your colleague, Senator Fatuma, and you got away with it. Here you are referring your colleague as a lion. The standing orders are very clear on how to refer your colleague. You should refer your colleague as the Honorable Senator for Narok County.
Mr. Speaker, I apologize and I stand guided. I meant the distinguished senator of Narok, who is also the chief whip on the side of the minority, aka the Lion of Narok, aka the lion that meanders into Kajiado and causes a lot of pain to some predators who also sit in this house, Mr. Speaker.
Senator Boni, can you conclude that statement?
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I was doing it on his behalf because we are so grateful, honorable members. This week,
Honorable Senator Boni,
we were able to vote.
Can you read it verbatim and conclude, please? You're reading it on behalf of your majority leader. Just read it as written. Don't explain it.
Mr. Speaker. From now onwards, I'll read it as written, but want to advise the Secretariat that they be consulting the leadership of the minority on both sides. We have a serious input we can put here, which keeps on missing every week. Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday,
Just proceed and conclude, Honorable Senator.
Mr. Speaker, on Tuesday, 6th May 2025, the Senate Business Committee will meet to consider the business of the week. The tentative business for that day will include business not concluded from today's order paper, as well as the business indicated in the notice paper. The tentative business for the morning sitting Wednesday, 7th of May 2025 will include scheduled questions to Cabinet Secretaries as approved by the Senate Business Committee, as well as motions. The questions scheduled are as follows. Question 65, to the Cabinet Secretary, Cooperatives, Microfinance, Small and Medium Enterprises Development by Senator Joyce Korir. Question 34, to the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury Economic Planning by Honorable Enoch Wambua, MP. Question 35, to the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Economic Planning, Senator James Murango, MP. Question number 43,
to the Cabinet Secretary for the National Treasury and Economic Planning, Senator Professor Thomas Ojenda, Senior Counsel, MP. Question 52, on the questions to the Cabinet Secretary for the Education, Senator Catherine Muma, MP, Senior Counsel in Waiting. Question 53, to the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Senator Edwin Sifuna, still very far from Senior Counsel. Question 60, to the Cabinet Secretary for Education, Senator George Mbugua, MP. Question 61, to Cabinet Secretary for Education, Senator Joyce Korir, MP. Question 64, to the Cabinet Secretary for Education by Senator Dr. Boni Khalwale, CBS, MP. Question 71, to the Cabinet Secretary for Education by Senator Daniel Manzo, MP. The tentative business for the afternoon sitting on Wednesday, 7th May 2025 will include business not concluded on Tuesday, 6th May 2025 and the following. A, bills at the second reading. The County Government's Procedure Bill, the Creative Economy Support Bill, the County Government's Bill, the Labor Migration Management Bill, the Street Naming and Property Addressing Systems Bill. B, bills at the Committee of the Whole, namely the Nuts and Oils Crops Bill, the Cooperative Societies Bill, the County Government's Elections Laws Amendment Bill, the Public Fundraising Bills, the Environment Laws Amendment Bill, the County Civic Education Bill, the Heritage and Museums Bill, the County Library Services Bill, and the Statutory Instruments Amendment Bill. Now, Mr. Speaker, the projected business on Thursday, 8th May 2025, will include business not concluded on the order paper for Wednesday, May 7th, 2025, and any other business scheduled by the Senate Business Committee. In addition to the business as listed above, there are bills at the mediation stage which need to be dispensed with. This include the Natural Resources Benefit Sharing Bill, the Employment Amendment Bill, the Equalization Fund Appropriation Bill, the Food and Feed Safety Control Coordination Bill, and the Gambling Control Bill. I urge the mediation committees to use the recess to finalize on the mediation process and table reports for consideration by the two houses. Honorable Speaker, as honorable senators are aware, the Senate is scheduled to proceed on recess at the rise of the Senate today, in accordance with the Senate calendar. I therefore take this opportunity to wish all honorable senators a happy Easter and a fruitful engagement with their constituents within their counties, families, friends, and relatives. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Now, yes, Senator for Nyamira.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I wanted to rise on a point of order. I've just perused a report that has been tabled before the House by the Standing Committee on Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations. It's a progress report on the operational and the leadership crisis affecting the County Assembly of Nyamira. Mr. Speaker, I rose on a point of order on 1st of April, and I sought the committee to deal with 4 issues. Mr. Speaker, I've had the opportunity to peruse the report, and I want to thank the chair of the Devolution Committee and the members for the attention that they gave this matter and for the speed at which they have tabled the report before the House. I, on behalf of the people of Nyamira, want to thank the Chair and the committee, especially on the resolution I've seen that states that the sittings of the County Assembly should henceforth be held at the County Assembly building opposite Kenya Industrial Estates, Nyamira. I'm hopeful, Mr. Speaker, that the people of Nyamira will appreciate the intervention of the Senate and that we are not going to have two parallel sittings henceforth in the county government of Nyamira. That is a really big milestone, Mr. Speaker, for me and for the people of Nyamira. This dispute has been ongoing since October last year. I brought it here on 1st of April, and the Senate of the Republic of Kenya has moved with speed and resolved the issue. I'm sure this will be a matter that will be applauded by the citizens of the county government of Nyamira. Now, Mr. Speaker, there are a number of issues that are purely legal that may not be resolved by the Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations Committee. Mr. Speaker, if you read my statement, I had sought from the committee to tell the House the legal status of the sittings that were held outside the official premises of the County Assembly and the effects of those sittings. Mr. Speaker, that issue has not been resolved by the committee, and I believe rightly so, because that's a matter that should squarely fall within the Legal, Justice, and Human Rights Committee. Second, Mr. Speaker, there is another issue I'd sought on the legal standing on all the businesses that had been transacted by the two factions, especially the faction that was led by a speaker who had been impeached. Mr. Speaker, and that's my final point. If you read, Mr. Speaker, the documents that have been tabled before the court, there is a finding in petition number E008 of 2024, where Justice Okwani states that she gave the initial orders in that case erroneously, and that she did not have the jurisdiction to entertain the issues that were before her. Mr. Speaker, I would like that matter, and the second matter being petition number E001 of 2024 that was filed before the Employment and Labor Relations Court at Kisii, being Constitutional and Human Rights Division. That's petition number 1 of 2024. Mr. Speaker, if you read that affidavit, which appears at page 244 of the report, the Speaker says that he was present during the vote, when the vote to impeach him was taken, and that intends to have the High Court declare the impeachment process to be unconstitutional. Mr. Speaker, I would like the Justice and Legal Affairs Committee to tell this House what is the import of a speaker moving to court after impeachment, seeks a conservatory order, and the court declines to issue a conservatory order. What happens to the resolution that was passed by the county assembly? Because those issues are weighty and legal in nature, Mr. Speaker, and because these are urgent issues that need to be resolved so that we can have resumption of normal operations in the County Assembly of Nyamira, I seek, Mr. Speaker, sir, that you refer those issues to the Justice, Legal Affairs, and Human Rights Committee for determination. And I'm making this request, Mr. Speaker, as the senator who rose and sought for answers from the Committee of Devolution and Intergovernmental Relations. But I thank the senators, Mr. Speaker, who dealt with this matter. I'm also happy that they have directed the sittings of the Assembly, Mr. Speaker, to proceed in accordance with the Constitution of Kenya and the law, meaning, Mr. Speaker, that anybody who has gone to court and has not obtained any orders, he should respect the constitutional process that has taken place. We do that all the time.
Mr. Speaker. Because the matter is urgent, I will seek your direction, Mr. Speaker, that the committee reports on that matter within 14 days. Thank you.
Now, honorable senators, we are not debating the report. I think guidance has been sought on two issues, where we do appreciate the good work that has been done by the committee on. Let me dispense with this issue that has been raised by Senator Fonyamira. While we do appreciate the good work that has been done by the Abbas-led committee, indeed, it is true. I have perused the report myself before approving it for tabling. There are two issues that remain
unresolved in that particular matter. And those two issues are as given by the Senator Fonyamira. One, the committee ought to have looked at and indeed indicated in the report and recommended and guided the House what is the legal status of the sittings that were held outside the normal designated area. That's one. What is the legal implication of those two sittings? And the second limb was the Speaker of the County Assembly of Nyamira, having been impeached, he went to court seeking conservatory orders. The court declined. He decided to still come back and proceed, or rather came back to continue working as a Speaker. So what is the legal implication of the actions of the Speaker? Now, honorable senators, those are truly legal matters. Those two issues are legal matters, and they're better probed by JLAC. And therefore, while we appreciate the very good work that has gone into this report up to the time of tabling, I will be directing, and I do direct, that JLAC takes up those two issues, those two legal issues, to come and inform the House on whether the proceedings that took place outside the areas that is designated for transacting county assembly matters in Nyamira are valid, those two sittings, or rather to give us the legal implication of the sittings that were done outside the designated chamber in Nyamira. And secondly, to guide the House on the implication of the Speaker who, after impeachment, decided to continue working as a Speaker, the impeachment notwithstanding. So I would be referring those two aspects to JLAC for determination and guidance to the House. JLAC will process those two aspects, and they will have they have 60 days, but looking at the urgency of this particular matter, I will be requesting JLAC to report to the House much earlier than the 60 days that we always give committees to deliberate on matters and table reports. If we can be able to have a response, or if we can be able to have a report from JLAC within 21 days, that is 1 week into the coming session. We are going on recess today for 2 weeks. If JLAC can take 3 weeks from today to table the matter, because this matter is extremely urgent. What's happening in Nyamira is not something that we should let it continue for even a minute, but because the committee needs to sit and probe this matter, let me allow them to do their work within 21 days and table a report so as to guide the Senate in making a recommendation on these two matters. It is so guided. Now, honorable senators, allow me then to go to the comments on the statements that have been sought. I will call upon Senator Thangwa Karungo to take the floor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity. As I give my comments, may it be known that I am Karungo Wadhangwa, Senator for Kiambu. Yeah, because, Mr. Speaker, you can be, just like Senator Zifuna, a senator for Nairobi, but from Kakamega. Mr. Speaker,
Order, honorable senator. Senator Karungo, just to remind you, I had earlier on communicated that if you have an opportunity to speak, keep it under 3 minutes.
Okay, I'll do so, Mr. Speaker. You know, it's because we are treated
What is your point of order, Senator for Nairobi?
Honorable Speaker, pursuant to Standing Order 105, the remarks by the Senator for Kiambu are not only in bad faith, but they're also not factual. He has allocated an origin to me that is very strange to me. I don't come from Kakamega. I don't understand why. I am the senator for Nairobi. I don't know what. Yeah. I don't come from Kakamega. That is the whole point.
Order,
So
honorable senators. I think Senator Sifuna knows where he comes from.
Correct.
He has stated that he comes from Nairobi. So any other assertion is not factual, and therefore ought to be withdrawn. So proceed to withdraw that aspect, Senator Karungo, and conclude your remarks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's only yesterday he was saying that his mother doesn't have network all the way from Western.
That's his mother, honestly.
In
Senator
Western,
Karungo.
Mr. Speaker, it's only yesterday here that there is no network from where he comes from. And he was asking the CS Kabogo to make sure they have network. Anyway, I withdraw and apologize. He knows where he comes from. Mr. Speaker, let me comment on the statement that was requested by Senator Omtata. Mr. Speaker, this is an issue of compensation. And I think as a Senate, we need to stop every other business when we come back, Mr. Speaker, and deliberate on the issues of compensation for the persons affected, for the project-affected persons. We call them PAPs, Mr. Speaker. This mandate is given to NLC, National Land Commission, that whenever a person or an individual or a community, they're affected by an infrastructure, whether a road or a building or a bridge, they should be compensated, Mr. Speaker. And NLC is the one that is mandated to make sure that they're compensated. But this is not the case, Mr. Speaker, because they never get their money. I think as a Senate, we should make it mandatory for NLC before they agree the signing of any contract that those affected persons should be compensated or must be compensated before, Mr. Speaker, the contract commences, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, through the memories from the Roads Committee, Mr. Speaker, I remember...
Mr. Speaker, long went.
Oh, Madam Speaker. Oh, Madam Speaker. Sorry for that. Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I remember very well in the Roads Committee, we had these issues. The people of Kabete, the people of Gitaru, the people of Ndeia, all in Kiambu County, have not been compensated. We even, in the Roads Committee, in the files there are people from all the way from Elgeyo Marakwet, from 1975, Madam Speaker. They have never been compensated. And this is happening even today, Madam Speaker. I think we need to stop every other business because this is a matter of national importance, that the government is trespassing on people's properties, Madam Speaker. Because when you build road on somebody's private land and you deny them compensation, you are a thief. You're stealing, you're grabbing their land, Madam Speaker. So I think this is something that we really need to discuss. The other issue that was raised by Senator Aledama, Madam Speaker, about the Senate caucus on futures, Mr. Speaker, It is time for us to think about the laws that help the generation.
Just give him 30 seconds to finish, please. Will that be adequate?
Yeah, what I was saying, Madam Speaker, is that it's good for us as a Senate and also the National Assembly. When we come up with the laws, we should think about the next generation. We should make laws for prosperity. Before every or any law is passed by this House, we should be asking ourselves, how is it going to affect our country in the next 5, 10 years? That is what exactly Senator Ledama was saying. And I urge the House to support that we do have a standing committee on futures. That is foresight, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Oruoba.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'd like to add my voice on Senator Onyonka's statement about illegal organ transport, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, this has since been brought to the public and to the limelight, Madam Speaker, that our youth particularly are being recruited by rogue agents, particularly in the area of Eldoret, Madam Speaker. They're being recruited to sell their kidneys, Madam Speaker, for less than 1,000 USD. Actually, now the going rate apparently is 250,000 to 300,000 for a kidney, Madam Speaker. And it has become such a lucrative business apparently for these agents, because once they do that, they are selling these organs, these kidneys, at about 9 million Kenya shillings to India. Madam Speaker, we have a whole group of cartels who are actually, they have organized that space in a way that it has become a norm in Eldoret particularly, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to say that it is unfortunate that this has even spread down to the labor export agents, Madam Speaker. Agents who are supposed to be taking people to go and work abroad are now looking for desperate youth to ensure that they harvest their organs, they make a killing in between for agency fee. Some are being lied to that they are going to work outside, Madam Speaker, and it's all under the government watch, Madam Speaker. So I hope when this statement is being dealt with, that we are not just going to give a report as usual, Madam Speaker. We have to see arrests. There are so many of our desperate youth who have ended up with severe complications because they are being told you'll get 300,000 instantly. Some are being promised with an exchange of a boda, Madam Speaker. Can you imagine? Someone is just, because they are so desperate, they're saying, let me give out my kidney so I can get a boda and start, earning and living, Madam Speaker. So I think this is unfortunate. This is not what this government intended to do with our youth. And it's a very, very unfortunate event. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Sifuna.
Madam Speaker, I rise to comment on the statement by Senator Onyonka. But before I do, I have forgiven my counterpart from Kiambu. During the campaigns, we had a campaign where we used to transport people from Murima. They go and see how Western region and the lake looks like. We take our people from Western. They also come and see the difference between Kiambu, Muranga, and the others. Because some Kenyans, Madam Speaker, because they have never gone past their homes and their home areas, they don't know the difference between Kakamega, Bungoma, Vihiga, and Trans Nzoia. So to him, we all look the same. He looks at me and he says, Halwale. That we all look the same. But there's need for a cultural exchange, which is why it was terrible that Senate Mashinani, which was scheduled to happen in Busia last year, was cancelled. I think the senator for Kiambu would have benefited from that trip. Madam Speaker, I also watched with horror last night on the news these reports of organ harvesting at a very credible, hitherto credible medical facility in Eldoret. And many of us actually have even sought services there. Many of our parents, especially from Western Kenya, they consider this facility a very credible facility. In fact, when the late Lawrence Sifuna passed, that is a facility that was taking care of him. So we were in shock, Madam Speaker. But it points to a greater problem in the country, not just the exploitation of young people, the economic situation in the country, that Kenyans are so desperate now that they consider some of their parts of their bodies not useful, available for sale, so that they can eat. They can feed one organ, the stomach only, Honorable Speaker. It is a sad situation. And then in the papers in the morning, I read that there were top ministry officials in the Ministry of Health that doctored the report on this organ harvesting and trafficking business to remove what they call damning sections of that report. I think those are the people the committee should go for. Because if we are unable to provide a good living for our people such that they can be exploited like this, we at the very minimum should be able to catch the people who are exploiting them when it happens in the circumstances that have happened with the Medihill in Eldoret. So, Honorable Speaker, I think our committee should focus on those people. We want the original report, the unadulterated report, so that we know the culprits and we prescribe the best punishment for them. There should be arrests, as the senators who have spoken before me have said. And I don't know what is happening to professionalism in this country. I think, Dr. Khalwale, you must speak to this. Even those KMPDU, the unions, and the, the other one is called Kenya Medical Association or what? The Doctors Registration Board. They also need now to enforce ethical behavior within their own profession. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Senator Cherarki.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise to support the statement on the issue of kidney transplant operations by Medihill Hospital in Eldoret. Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker, I used to think this Medihill group of hospitals was credible. As my colleagues have said, a number of us have sought medical services, but I watch with horror, gnashing of teeth, and with a lot of afraid, Madam Speaker, when I saw that some of our young people the hospital was facilitating the transplant of kidney to Israel, Madam Speaker, and I'm happy the Israel Embassy in Nairobi has issued a statement condemning and saying they are willing to partner in the investigation. Now, Madam Speaker, and you remember in the last, some of the leaders of Medihill, in the last session, colleagues who are not in parliament, when you used to go to Keses constituency, TVs were being given out, cows were being given out, and many things. Kumbe, they were just selling human organs to go and donate in campaigns in Keses constituency, Madam Speaker, and it was very sad that 372 organ transplant has been done. Madam Speaker, it's very unfortunate. The Ministry of Health must be called out for sanctioning and approving this process. I know in Kenya we don't have a proper law on how organ harvesting, selling organ transplant should be done. But it is a wake-up call that anybody who participated in this illegal syndicate of organ transplant and organ harvesting must be brought to book. I watch with pain that some of the young people who sold kidneys and other organs have now become weak. They cannot do anything, Mr. Speaker, even participating in conjugal rights, Mr. Speaker. So, Madam Speaker, so it's very unfortunate that this country is becoming like this. And I heard today Maina Kageni and Mwalimu Kingang in the morning at Classic 105 saying even some Kenyans, the economic situation is so sad that some Kenyans might even want to sell some parts of their body, like even fingernails and toes, Madam Speaker, so that they can cover. So it means there is a deeper problem of economic challenges in this country. We must come out, and I want to call out professional bodies and Ministry of Health to sanction all officials who participated in this syndicate, Madam Speaker. And in future, I want to warn Kenyans, when you see politicians giving out money without explaining their source of that money, be very careful. Because the same hospital were being used by politicians to get even elected to seats, Madam Speaker. So be very careful. Finally, on Teacher Service Commission promotions, I agree Teacher Service Commission is now the headquarters of corruption. They should be called to order. They were given 1 billion, they only promoted 25,000 teachers, and there was a lot of political patronage. TSC has been accused that they have even left their work of recruitment to other agencies, including politicians. They must be called out. Well, I support those statements, Madam Speaker.
Senator Okenyuri.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I want to begin by supporting the statement by Senator Onyonka on promotion for the just concluded exercise by TSC. Madam Speaker, when I use the words of Senator Cherargei, TSC is actually the headquarters of corruption, Madam Speaker. Notorious officials who I call rogue are actually soliciting for resources from very teachers who are already in a deplorable state, Madam Speaker, for them to get promoted. In the just concluded exercise, You have a teacher who has been in the service for over 17 years who didn't get promotion. But on the other hand, you have a teacher who has just joined service for just 1 year and they were promoted, Madam Speaker. How do you explain that, Madam Speaker? If I actually use the words of a trade unionist by the name Benjamin Burombo, who actually said, when I'm fighting for African rights, the other hand is busy keeping away Africans who are fighting me. Madam Speaker, I know corruption will always fight back, but this is not an issue we are going to relent about because teachers will largely accept that also they deserve some kind of support and well remuneration so that they also can have the motivation to keep doing the service they are offering to Kenyans, Madam Speaker. So I want to call out TSC, and the officers in those offices have actually overstayed. But my worry is, even if they are going to be reshuffled, the culture is the same. It runs from the national to the ground, Madam Speaker. So I want to really say whatever they are doing will not be entertained. Madam Speaker, I also want to support the statement by Senator Cherargei on the tariff that has been imposed by the US government, Madam Speaker. That has effects on us, Madam Speaker, and I think as a country we need, on a serious note, to look at the engagement we are having with other countries. Just the other day, South Sudan banned having tea imports, Madam Speaker, from Kenya. That on a trickle-down effect, most tea farmers are going to suffer huge losses, and as a result, we are also going to generate revenue, Madam Speaker. So on a quick, that the committee that is going to look on that issue is my committee, Trade, Madam Speaker, and I want to promise Senator Cherargei that we are going to look deeply in that matter so that we sort out most of those challenges that have been addressed by the Nandi warrior, Senator Cherargei. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Senator Halwade.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Speaker, the issue by Senator Mtata about compensation is very serious. It is only today, when it has come into public domain, that Professor PLO Lumumba has sued Honorable Nixon Korir, PS Lands, because they have embezzled 184 families of money meant for compensation for areas where the standard gauge rail line passed through. Nixon Korir with some other senior officers at the Ministry of Lands. Parliament, we must wake up to these things. Lumumba should not be doing our work. We should by now have removed Nixon Korir from office to pave way for comprehensive investigations. How do you investigate the PS when he's in control of all the data that the courts will require to nail him? Mr. Speaker, I demand that Nixon Korir steps down as a PS and await the outcome of the investigations. Mr. Speaker.
What's your point of order, Senator Eddy?
Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker.
Order, Senator Cherargei, please.
Madam Speaker, 101. Standing order 101. The majority whip who oversights the government has brought to the attention of this House very serious things happening in the government where he's the whip.
Senator Eddy, what's your point of order under which standing
That's the point of order, Madam Speaker. I've said point of order number 105, 101, Madam Speaker. And the issue that he has brought to us, Madam Speaker, is that there is a PS that he has alleged has embezzled some funds that must resign, and he has used the word demand, which I respect because he's the whip who has demanded that. It's unanswered, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, under 101, is indeed in order.
Senator Eddy, can you cite the standing order under which you are acting? No. Oh, I didn't hear that. So.
Madam Speaker said 101.
Hear that.
I was just saving you the reading.
Yeah.
Under 101, Madam Speaker, can we discuss the conduct of an individual without a substantive motion? Can the whip be directed to give us a substantive motion? Because, Madam Speaker, this is a very serious issue. Where embezzlement is involved, may you direct the whip to bring a substantive motion on the said PS so that we can be able to converse, and doesn't demand it just out of the blues. The demand is obsolete if it doesn't have any power given by this House, Madam Speaker.
Senator,
can you give us the substantive motion?
Senator Halwade, you have had the point of order. Would you please withdraw your demands around the PS and bring before this House the matter in the proper manner so that it can be discussed?
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I'll do as directed. I will be able to handle it in the proper manner. And
yes.
Mr. Speaker, for purposes
but first,
of this
first withdraw the demand that...
yes, I withdraw the demand.
Thank you.
Until guided by a resolution of the House. Madam Speaker, allow me to use this opportunity. There was a time when I was your age, Senator for Migori, and the nominated Senator Gloria, who keeps on screaming from the back there. There was a time we were your age. And we learned from the senior politicians in this House to be good legislators.
Senator Halwade, please don't use unparliamentary language in respect of colleagues.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, if I may go to my contribution. On the issue of raised by Senator Onyonka, Madam Speaker, about human organ trafficking, I want to call upon the chairman of the Kenya Medical Practitioners and Dentists Board, Professor Stanley Khainga, who was my classmate from high school all the way through medical school. Professor Khainga, the eyes of the country are on you. You should have, accompanied by the PS Health, accompanied by CS Health, accompanied by CS Internal Security, all should have gone to Eldoret to go and close down this thing you're calling a hospital. How can it be, as I saw some so-called CEO of that hospital, I saw on TV, struggling to say that they are a world-class center of doing kidney transplants. And as she said so, she spoke in broken English. A world-class center cannot employ people who are illiterate. They should not play around with the children of the poor. I want to see a child of a minister going to donate, a child of a PS going to donate a kidney for somebody who is unknown to them. Mr. Speaker, in medical ethics, you donate organs within families. And before that donation is done, you do everything up to and including DNA. We cannot just allow people to be exploited. What a pity. 300,000 shillings in exchange of an organ that will turn your life completely, in exchange of conmanship by people who will get millions of shillings from that organ. It must stop. We must protect the poor. And if it's not,
Senator Halwade, you can finalize in 30 seconds. In 30 seconds.
Yes, Madam Speaker, I finalize by addressing the Minister of Health. He is not going to intimidate anybody. The Minister of Health is on record bragging that although he is not a doctor, he knows more than a doctor. Duale, please. Please, you're a small boy. I saw you found me in this parliament.
Senator Halwade, please withdraw those words. Don't use unparliamentary language.
Okay, I withdraw the small boy part, but caution him again and again to stop playing with doctors. He should go and reflect what became of his classmates
with whom they were in high school. How was he performing in class compared to his classmates who went to medical school? He owes them some degree of respect. Being appointed as a minister does not make you supernaturally clever. In fact, there are Kenyans who would be making this government performing better if they were the ones in those ministerial dockets. Mahoba.
Senator Mutinda.
Madam Speaker, I do rise to make comments on Senator Cheryl Guy's statement in regards to the 10% tariff that has been imposed to the Kenyan exports by United States of America. Madam Speaker, we all agree very much that tea, coffee, the horticulture, textile, but especially tea and coffee are the highest economic horticultural products that we have in this country. And the increase of these tariffs, Madam Speaker, definitely then will impact negatively as far as the revenues for these two products are concerned. I hope and believe that the committee that has been assigned this particular discussion will be able to look into this so that we do not really water down the efforts of our farmers in the tea sector and the coffee sector. Madam Speaker, allow me to touch also on Senator Onyonka's statement in regards to the kidney transplants in this Medihill Hospital. Madam Speaker, Medihill, from where I sit, where I've passed by and seen how it looks very classy, it looks very nice, a good hospital, well-maintained and all that. So of course, Madam Speaker, the expectation is that the standards and the administration, services are up to as what you see, as what your eyes see. But Madam Speaker, what we've seen of late, the documentary that we saw, it's completely out of this world, Madam Speaker. You know, the other day, last year, yes, when we had the issue of Shakahola, the discussion came of, was it issues, a business of organ sale or operations in terms of these organs being removed from Kenyans and sold out there. A lot of discussions, went round. Now, with this issue that has been highlighted from such a hospital, it's very sad, Madam Speaker, and I want to request the relevant ministry, which is the Ministry of Health. It has a new ministry. I believe Dwale will be able to perform, will be able to deliver. He's been assigned different ministries, and we've seen him streamlining these ministries. Madam Speaker, at times you don't have to be a doctor to serve in this particular Ministry of Health. Leadership takes the lead. And we believe in his leadership that he's going to ensure such unscrupulous business people putting up hospitals for such kind of money-making businesses, this should stop, Madam Speaker. Lastly, is also on the issue of teachers, that I'm told it's also the statement for Senator Onyonka in regards to the recent promotions that have been unfair. Madam Speaker, where you sit, you and me and everyone, we've come from the education system. I mean, we are here because we started, our teachers really...
30 seconds, Senator.
Oh, thank you, Madam Speaker. So our teachers, for Christ's sake, Madam Speaker, they deserve good promotions. They deserve fair promotions, Madam Speaker. Everyone has passed through the education system. So it is fair. You can imagine today I sit here as a senator, and the teacher who taught me in that lower level today, they've never even, for example, gotten their fair share of promotion. It's quite very much unfair. So it is fair that the CEO, TSC, and the relevant bodies concerned in terms of, in regards to these promotions, they offer it fairly to the teachers who go out of their way to ensure that learning is to the standard that is required. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The last speaker will be Senator Eddy.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Senator Cheragi has brought to this House a very important statement, Madam Speaker. And this statement, Madam Speaker, perhaps has skipped the lawmakers in Kenya. This statement, Madam Speaker, is to the Standing Committee of Trade, Industrialization and Tourism on a matter of national concern regarding the impact of the 10% tariff imposed on Kenyan exports by the United States of America, Madam Speaker. This tariff, Madam Speaker, is generally to affect the sectors of tea, coffee, horticulture, textile, and other sectors that are largely contributing to Kenyan exports, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I don't know why this is not a matter of substantive motion in this House. In fact, I wanted to wish Senator Cherargei the courage to bring this as a matter of national importance and a motion that this House must converse on. And, Madam Speaker, if possible, go ahead and even make resolutions, Madam Speaker. Because this is one of those statements, Madam Speaker, that is critically indicting our policy, our foreign policy angle, Madam Speaker. Simply put, the United States has put tax on our commodities, Madam Speaker. Tax that is going to increasingly affect producers locally here, Madam Speaker, who, as we speak, Madam Speaker, experience a swath of violence, a swath of economic disruption, a swath of business disruption in the wake of the Gen Z movement last year, Madam Speaker, that was agitated by the issue of high taxation in Kenya, Madam Speaker. The tax levels that our people here are facing, Madam Speaker, is already so high that if you have tariffs being imposed on these particular areas, Madam Speaker, and unfortunately so, they come in the helm of the backdrop of this economy, which is agricultural products, Madam Speaker. If you look at the issue of tea, a key agricultural product, Madam Speaker. If you look at the issue of coffee, a key agricultural product, Madam Speaker. If you look at the issue of horticulture, a key agricultural product, Madam Speaker. If you look at the issue of textile, which we are even trying to struggle to even renew and regenerate our greeneries, Madam Speaker, it is not possible to continue normal production in this country, Madam Speaker, where this issue is potentially going to lead to serious high cost of production. And Madam Speaker, we know, time without number, that where this kind of tariffs have been put on goods such as this, Madam Speaker, it directly only leads to the producers of these particular commodities pushing that cost to consumers, Madam Speaker. What does that mean? It means that Kenyans who are already extremely taxed will now also face serious consumer prices rising to them on the basic goods and services that they provide to these companies, Madam Speaker. So my urge, Madam Speaker, is that the moment the United States chose to impose 10% taxation on these commodities, Madam Speaker, it should have, and we have an opportunity, Madam Speaker, actually in both houses, it should be a matter of substantive motion that we must discuss, and it must inform also our foreign policy on how we want to engage with the United States, Madam Speaker. Do you want to review our lack of tariffs thereof in a number of commodities in the United States, Madam Speaker, so that we respond with the same, or do you want to negotiate it on the backdrop of a sober foreign policy, Madam Speaker? So while I support this statement and is going to go to the relevant committee, I want to urge this House to pay attention to it, that further from that committee, this statement should be brought back as a substantive motion that we can canvass on it and come with a position of the Senate that can be sent to the President so that he can be able to see how he engages his counterpart in the United States. So therefore, thank you, Senator Cherargei, as I support this statement.
Honorable Senators, we will defer the orders 8 to 13, and we'll move on to the next order, please. Clerk.
Order number 14, the Sports Amendment Bill, Senate Bills number 33 of 2024, second reading, resumption of debate.
Senator Okech, you had a balance of 15 minutes to go on this bill.
Madam Speaker, yesterday I was interrupted by the issue of quorum by the good senator or aspiring senator from from Kwale, Madam Speaker, who was trying to catch probably his flight, being a Sky Team member. And Madam Speaker, I'm glad that today his flight is not being interfered with and is around, and he looks very excited to contribute more.
Senator, please focus on
a lighter note, Madam Speaker. But, Madam Speaker, this is a very fantastic bill that has been pushed forward by the great Senator of Nairobi. And just to recap, that the Senator of Nairobi is working hard around the clock to make sure that we can be able to have our counties, from the money that they receive, just 1% of that money be dedicated to a sports fund within the counties, so that, Madam Speaker, those organizations within sports, organizations that are established to have been registered, whether individually or as a group, can then be able to benefit from what we will say some sort of funding by the county government in a predictable way that allows them to be organized and to participate in different platforms of sport, Madam Speaker. And Madam Speaker, as I recap on this, yesterday I did intimate that indeed sporting has been left to grow like one of the seeds upon sowing that grows in among thorns, surviving on its own, Madam Speaker. Because if you cast your eye upon our sporting activities in this country, Madam Speaker, sport thrives in three ways, Madam Speaker. One is organically through community organized organizations that then support some form of sport here and there. And then the second way, Madam Speaker, is that sport thrives within our schooling systems, be it primary and secondary, and then to the university level. And Madam Speaker, you will notice that the higher level of education you go, the more the sports start dwindling. And that is because the investment in terms of both management, funding of it, infrastructural support of it, and even more broadly, professionalization of sport becomes a problem. So that means that there is nothing as devolved by the DNA of our own country in terms of our own organization as sports. But the problem that has been, Madam Speaker, is that we have not seen the commercial viability, the business case for sports in our country, to the extent that we have left this local organization of sports to just take an organic format. And this is one of those ways to make sure that you can be able to enable sports to thrive as a case that is an economically viable mode of belonging in our country, Madam Speaker, that in some ways can even try and uptake a swath of young people who do not have economic opportunity in this country, Madam Speaker. What do I mean by this, Madam Speaker? If you were to have a bird's eye view position on the issue of sport in our country, Madam Speaker, you'll realize that actually the most popular sports are the ones that get a bit of attention. Not enough attention to make them thrive, but just a bit of attention. For instance, Madam Speaker, athletics in this country. I say it gets a bit of attention because there is no proper investment in the infrastructure that is needed to support grassroots organization of athletes to the extent that they can grow to national level. Then you come to the second one that becomes soccer, that everybody in this country will agree, Madam Speaker, that if you cast your eye upon what brings us together, even among communities, of course, thumbs up to Gor Mahia, thumbs up to FC Leopard, thumbs up to Police FC, thumbs up to Badara United, and all the teams that form our Premier League, Madam Speaker. But if you cast your eye upon these teams, Madam Speaker, you realize that that is where there is some form of semblance to organization in the sports investment, Madam Speaker, in this country. But if you look at other sports, Madam Speaker, that even can involve other gender, especially the women gender who are sometimes excluded from some of these physically hard sports like soccer, there is no attention to this, Madam Speaker. So allowing this fund to take root in our grassroots communities, Madam Speaker, is the beginning of organizing sports. It is the beginning of investing in sports management. It's the beginning of actually ensuring that we got a paradigm shift in the way we invest in sport. Because currently, Madam Speaker, when young people in Narok County want to go and play soccer during their camps when they're in holidays, all they need to do, and the only way they see they can be able to actually go and have their sports time and be able to enjoy the game while also building their professional capacities, is to call Senator Ledamo Lekina and tell Senator Ledamo Lekina that we are going for a sports activity. Our budget is 100,000. Please help us out. And then if they are in Nandi, it's even worse. Because in Nandi, what the characters I've seen is that I have sat with Senator Cherargei. They call them, the Senator Cherargei, to pay for referees who are going to referee these matches. It's even worse in Nairobi, where we should even have better sporting academies, because my sister, Senator Mutinda, who is a nominated member, sometimes when her pockets run dry, she reaches out to me and tells me that there are young girls who want to go and play netball, but they cannot be able to access some field where they can go and play this netball. So that I have to dig in my pocket and be a charitable donor to my wonderful senator to support her to make sure that people can access even just field for sport, Madam Speaker. So it is important that we invest in this sporting activity so that Senator Mutinda does not need to suffer to take money from her pocket to go and pay for a field for the young ladies in Nairobi who relate with us so well, or in Kayole, or in Dandora, can suffer, Madam Speaker. In some extent, Madam Speaker, even in Migori County, it goes worse. Young people have organized themselves so well from Rongo, from Nyatike, from Kuria. They have their tournament in the farthest end of the county, and then they want to call Eddie Okech, their senator, that Senator Eddie, can you even help us just get water and some bread to go and survive on, Madam Speaker? Yet, if you go to our counties today, Madam Speaker, you'll find a governor going with a convoy of 10 vehicles to go and launch a project of 200,000, Madam Speaker. This is a very important bill, Madam Speaker, that will ensure that our organization at the grassroots level makes sure that community programs, clubs, locally organized organizations, and even to some extent volunteer networks that are organizing our clubbing activities in the grassroots can be able to have at least a jump start to make sure that when they're thinking about their sporting activities, they can be able to go far. Madam Speaker, the only thing that I didn't see here is that Senator Sifuna, in his wisdom, did indicate here that the key sporting activities that we would want to see hugely invested on in these grassroots communities include football, swimming, basketball, netball, and volleyball. I wanted to invite Senator Sifuna in the amendment opportunity that we might have in the different committees that we'll have in this House, Madam Speaker, to think diversification and also to think pride. That let us, first of all, invest in areas that have brought us serious pride, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, one of the reasons why when I go to the United States or when I go to Europe, I get to be proud to be Kenyan is because of the first feat of a lady called Faith Kipyegon. And Madam Speaker, currently I'm mentoring a young girl from Migori County who has, for the first time, made it to the Olympic, running the 800-meter category, called Lilian Odira. Madam Speaker, you might remember that Lilian Odira, last year in the qualification tests for runners in this country, she actually did defeat Mora, who has been a champion at all over the world stage, Madam Speaker. So we cannot exclude athletics from this funding at the grassroots level. We must give athletics the opportunity, just like we will give football, just like we'll give swimming, just like we'll give basketball, just like we'll give netball, and just like we'll give volleyball, Madam Speaker. But even more adventurous, Madam Speaker, if you are an enthusiast of sporting activities and you are keen to watch things like the Olympic, Madam Speaker, you realize that in the Olympics, Madam Speaker, there are a lot of sporting activities that some of them, you wonder that, why wouldn't my son or my daughter in Kenya, if I am a Kenyan, cannot participate in them, Madam Speaker? For instance, Madam Speaker, we have seen in America a number of young kids going for gymnastics as a major sport that brings glory and honor to the United States. And they compete with their counterparts from Russia, from China, from Japan. Madam Speaker, these are sports that if you are to put people from Tarakaniti, where my friend Senator Gataya Mofaya comes from, you will have very good gymnastics, Madam Speaker, who can compete at the global stage. But we don't give them priority because we don't see them as sports, Madam Speaker. If you think about sports like synchronized swimming, Madam Speaker, if you come from the lake where I come from, or from where Senator Faki comes from, in the Indian Ocean, Madam Speaker, in the Indian Ocean, when you go there, Madam Speaker, you realize that even Chimera, Senator Chimera, the kind of swimming that this gentleman does in snow, they call it snorkeling. They do a lot of snorkeling, Madam Speaker, and they go and swim with the dolphins right in Wasini Island. And this is an opportunity where they can be able to get, when you think about sporting in a broad capacity, that we see a lot of those diversified sporting opportunities in Olympics, that I think that people in Kenya have got more than talent enough to go and participate at a global level. So I want to evoke the spirit of Ajua in Migori County, that Ajua can be a sport, Madam Speaker. This is what we call Mankala sport. It can be a sport that we showcase not just locally in Migori County, but all the way nationally, Madam Speaker. All the sporting activities that we are seeing being done at the Olympic levels, Madam Speaker, let encourage our counties that when this fund being supported by Senator Sifuna comes to law, we must see investment in those areas, Madam Speaker. Lastly, Madam Speaker, because I want to give time to my colleagues who also contribute in this wonderful bill, is that there is a conversation, Madam Speaker, that I have seen the Right Honorable Prime Minister Raila Odinga bringing around devolution, Madam Speaker. And one thing that I've learned, Madam Speaker, is that there are two concurrent bills that have come to this House. The bill for period poverty and the bill for sports now. And you realize that where these things happen to the maximum is in primary schools, more fundamentally, and high school to some extent, Madam Speaker. Isn't it the right time, Madam Speaker, for us to start thinking about devolving primary education, devolving secondary education, and to some extent, devolving the entire education so that counties can be given the power to deal with the immediate manifestation of the problems that are related with upbringing of our children at the schooling level. Because when you leave them largely for the national government, they collapse. Sporting is collapsing when the best place to build sporting capacities, Madam Speaker, is in high school and in primary schools, Madam Speaker, where age hasn't caught up with a number of people that they can be able to nurture these sports. So there's going to be a